This one just kind of flew under the radar. Playboy leaves Los Angeles for Miami Beach. CEO calls California anti-business. This on top of Bed Bath & Beyond saying, no way, no how are we opening up any physical stores in California in our reemergence from bankruptcy, because California is anti-business. How anti-business are they? Let's get into it. Here we go. Doesn't it seem like California was like the good fit for Playboy back in the day during the 50s? Miami was just culturally so different back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. I went to Miami a couple of times during the early 90s, maybe mid 90s-ish. And it was pretty fun. Got to be honest. I mean, nightlife starts at like midnight. Everything's just kind of so much different than Seattle. Seattle has no real nightlife. They didn't back then. But Miami seems like a good place for Playboy to take their headquarters. Playboy Enterprises announced on Wednesday that it will relocate its headquarters from Los Angeles to Miami Beach, becoming the latest high-profile company to abandon California in favor of what some call more business-friendly environments. We are seeing this on almost the daily right now. People are leaving. One of the biggest stories is Governor Newsom, podcaster Newsom, trying to become president in 2028. He knows that he's got a lot of buyer objections, of voter objections to the way that he's handled California. And one of them is the oil refineries leaving. Now, the oil refineries, there's two. There's Phillips 66 and there's Valero. And they've basically both said, hey, we're going to shut down these refineries. And if and when that happens, going to reduce California's ability to bring in oil in its own state to the tune of about 20%. I think it's like 17.5%, something like that. Meaning gasoline will probably shoot to the moon, unless California works out how to bring it in from basically the Middle East. But they've got the option, and they've got options that they could put in place that would make California more friendly to big oil. But it's a day late, dollar short. The oil industries have already said, hey, you guys are so anti-oil, you're so anti-fossil fuels that we're not even going to try and sell these refineries. We're just closing them down. And that's a massive topic going on right now. And, Gavin Newsom basically told the California Energy Commission, hey, you guys got to go find a buyer for these refineries. Let's keep the band going. Let's keep the party going. Because if he doesn't, the cost of gas shooting up to $8.43, which is what a California professor said, hey, this could happen, which, I don't doubt. You restrict the ability for a state to bring in oil. You restrict its ability to do that because California's got its own special blend of gasoline that it will only allow to its consumers in the state. All of this stuff is just layer after layer of regulation and taxation and expense and progressive ideology. Hey, we got to do something for the environment. Let's do it on the backs of the working class. We're going to have to pay $8 a gallon for gasoline. The impact of that would be horrific. So there's a massive scramble going on right now. Meanwhile, you got Bed Bath & Beyond, and we're going to talk about that in a second. I've done a full podcast on that. But you got Bed Bath & Beyond, the CEO coming right out and stating, we're not opening up any new stores in our emergence. We're not opening up any new stores in California in our emergence from bankruptcy. They shut everything down. They brought one store back in Tennessee, but they've already said, we are a hard no-go in California because California is too risky and they are anti-business. Come right out and said it. Gavin Newsom, his response to that was, I didn't even know you guys were still around. Good luck in becoming relevant again. I mean, just basically an F you to Bed Bath & Beyond, because the CEO just absolutely called out everything going on in California and just broke it down. Ben Cohen, chief executive of Playboy, described California as being anti-business, saying the state is an extremely expensive place to operate. Washington State, where I'm podcasting from, is is next in line. And we're already there. We just had $9.2 billion of new taxes enacted by our illustrious governor, Bob Ferguson, who's being investigated because he's not really changing up the sanctuary city policies and basically violating federal law. And then he's all of a sudden, he used to be our attorney general, and all of a sudden he's like, fascism. You're acting like fascists. No, we'd just like you to comply with federal law because I don't know if you know this, Bob. You went to law school. I didn't. But federal law trumps state law. Trumps state law. Yeah. But, we're tough learners. I mean, in these big progressive states, we do things over and over and over and over and literally expect a different outcome. And, why isn't that working? Why, when we tax the absolute F out of all our constituents, why are these businesses leaving? Well, whatever. Didn't know you guys were even in business. Good luck on being relevant. We're excited to move the company to the city of Miami Beach, which has been phenomenal to deal with. Very pro-business. It's Florida. Pro-business. California. Not pro-business. Tennessee. Pro-business. Washington. Not pro-business. The list just goes on, right? Illinois. Not pro-business. Because you got to tax the F out of businesses because you can only tax your constituents so far. Look at what happened with the property taxes in Illinois. Yeah, let's go Brandon Johnson in Chicago. He tried to do $300 million taxation, and Chicago already pays really exorbitant property taxes based on their assessed value. You look at those assessed values and how much they're being taxed, and you're like, holy cow. It's a shocker. It's a shocker. If you come from West Coast, Best Coast, and you start looking at Chicago values and their taxation, you're like, oof, I think I don't live there. So when you look at the cost of doing business in California against the cost of doing business in Florida, and you combine that with the energy of Miami Beach, it made all the sense in the world for Playboy to move there. Miami Beach, South Beach, is epic. It was when I was there last time, which was, 90-something. It was pretty cool. My wife's sister danced. She was a ballet artist. She was a dancer for Miami City Ballet. Really good dancer. And she danced for the San Francisco Ballet at one point in time. She was, top of the game. But we'd go stay at, in Miami Beach at her place when she was out on tour and hang out there. And so I kind of got to know Miami. I think we visited a couple, maybe 3 times. And it was fun. It was great. Miami is very different back then from what I understand it is now. You got a lot of cultural changes that have happened. And even back then, though, it was, Miami is progressive within a big Republican state, right? With being within Florida. I remember I joined a gym. And I joined a gym. I think we were there for like 10 days. I'm like, I'm just going to join a gym and get some workouts in, see what gym culture is like here. I didn't understand the rainbow. So there was a pretty good sized rainbow sticker on the front door in the window area. I didn't really get that. But then I started looking around going, there are no chicks here at all. Okay, all right. These guys were just hardcore, and they were hardcore, and then there was no shenanigans. But it was one of those things where, I joined a gay gym. All right, okay, and it's just one of those things where it wasn't quite out in the open in Seattle as it was in Miami back in that time. So socially progressive, but located in a city and a state that, from a financial, from a fiscal, from a business standpoint, way, way, way different than California, way different than Washington State. The once influential media and lifestyle brand, founded in 1953 by the late Hugh Hefner, will establish its new corporate base in a luxury office building called Rivani in Miami Beach. The company, which operates out of an office in Wilshire Boulevard in Westwood, said it plans to fully move into the new Miami office by next year. I honestly didn't know that Playboy was still a thing. It's still a magazine. I assume they've got an online presence. Had no idea. I mean, its market capitalization, Playboy at one point in time was phenomenal. It was amazing. It's like Because you got a bunch of nudies. You got a bunch of nudie pictures you couldn't find elsewhere. I mean, you could. You had to deal with I think Hustler and Penthouse. Are those still around? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's I remember that kind of. I remember that kind of. Yeah. Wonder what happened to him. Don't know. Don't really care. Because, it's you can only read so many of those magazines for the articles, right? Yeah. Publicly traded company did not disclose how many employees it has. Okay. It's not a lot. I don't believe it's a lot. I've seen some of the stories on some of the leadership. I mean, Hugh Hefner, and then all those tell-all books and videos by the Playboy girls just trying to, cash out on their moment of fame. Some just wild stuff. It was a wild time in history. Some would say that it's the decline of Western civilization. Playboy had a part in that because it legitimized pornography. All right. Yeah. However you stand on that. I mean, Playboy isn't a huge part of my life. Clearly don't really care, but its place in history is deeply cemented, whether people want to admit it or not. But Playboy, taking a cue from Bed Bath & Beyond and just saying, boop, we're out of here. We're out of here because California is no longer competitive. Playboy moves global headquarters out of California. Let's see what KTLA says. Playboy is packing up and heading out east. Isn't it interesting how everything used to be heading out west? And now you've got companies that are already west and they're like, yeah, I think we're going to go east, or we're going to go to the Southwest. We're going to go to Texas, or we're going to go to Tennessee, or we're going to go somewhere. Now, you don't hear of a lot of businesses moving to Idaho. You hear a lot of people moving to Idaho, but you don't hear of a lot of business. And somebody told me, you need to either move to Idaho or you need to move to Montana. And I'm kind of like, Idaho is so close to Washington. I don't know. It's going to take impact from Washington's its infection with progressive ideology. So the CEO then explained how Playboy's next chapter includes new studios, podcasts. Everybody's getting into podcasting. Good Lord. Photography and digital content. All right. But aren't they already doing all that? No? I don't know. We plan on building a content team in Miami with moving the magazine. We've relaunched the magazine and the Playmate franchise. Playmate franchise, that is still... Oh, I am so behind. Is there still such a thing as Playmate of the Month? Is that a thing? I haven't heard about that at all. Basing all of that in Miami and then having a massive licensing business on a global basis, we plan on building a significant licensing team in Miami as well. Is there a market for that? Is what Playboy does, is there a market for that? No clue, because I don't follow them and no idea. Playboy signed a lease at Robert Rivani's flagship project, Rivani, at 1690 Michigan Avenue. And that is, from my understanding, that's right off of Lincoln Road, which is kind of one of those main arterials in Miami Beach. They've got a couple of main roads that go right along the ocean, and that's how you get to anywhere. But man, traffic in Miami, horrible. I thought traffic was bad in Seattle, but traffic in Miami, yeah, can be tough. And it's interesting. Then you go a little bit further south into downtown Miami, and you're like, ooh, what's going on here? This is a little sketchy. This is a little bit sketchy. All right. So if you haven't checked out my podcast on Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm going to give you a short summary here. Red State writes, Bed Bath & Beyond takes a shocking stand and outright nukes Gavin Newsom's California. I mean, they just went ham. I'll read you this statement from Marcus Lemonis, executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond. If you've already heard me say all this, you can tune out. Otherwise, we will not operate retail stores. We will not open or operate retail stores in California. This decision isn't about politics. It's about reality. Low blow, but an honest one. Just, hey, this is reality. California is no longer open. They don't encourage businesses to come. California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky, that's an interesting word, risky environments for businesses in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep doors open, and harder to deliver value to customers. The result? Higher taxes, higher fees, higher wages that many businesses simply cannot sustain, and endless regulations that strangle growth. My state, Washington State, is on a freight train pathway of there. $9.2 billion in new taxes. It's like, what are you guys thinking? What did you guys think would happen when you hired yet another Democrat to run your state? Oh, we need all these social programs and we got to fund them somehow. Let's fund them with progressive revenue. Let's tax the F out of businesses and we'll just see how it goes. Even when the state announces a budget surplus in California, it's built on the backs of ordinary citizens who are paying too much and businesses who are squeezed until they break. And then they leave. Or they don't open up, as in the case of Bed Bath & Beyond, which is a little bit of an anomaly because they did go bankrupt. Now they're emerging. They're picking out the markets they want to go to so they can cherry pick the areas that they want to go to. At Bed Bath & Beyond, our responsibility is to our customers and our shareholders. We will not participate in a system that undermines both. Instead, we're investing in a California strategy that works. 24 to 48 hour delivery, 1 or 2 day delivery, and in many cases, same day service. Californians will continue to get the products they love through bedbathbeyond.com, but without the inflated costs created by an unsustainable model. Here's how he finishes. We're taking a stand because it's time for common sense. This is a CEO of a company that was a major player in retail, right? Coming right out and just throwing the dagger at California. Businesses deserve the chance to succeed. True. Employees deserve jobs that last, meaning they're not getting fired because the company can't afford them anymore because the wages are unsustainable. And customers deserve fair prices. California's system delivers the opposite. That's why Bed Bath & Beyond will serve California customers directly through BBB.com on our terms and with their best interests at heart. Well, kinda. Profitability being the ultimate underlying principle. Are you making money? If you're not, your shareholders are going to let you know because they're going to sell that stock. It's going to drop. If you have the option of doing something with your business, they're going to invest. Stock price is going to go up. Not that hard to figure out. But, in these big blue, liberal, progressive run states, they're getting bluer. California is losing population, right? California is losing population. California and New York are losing population to the point where in the next census in 2030, it's estimated they'll each lose about 4 seats in the House. Texas is doing the redistricting thing. That could work. And they might pick up a handful, right? So, you've got some of this population change. And what that is that's people voting with their feet. Where are they walking to? Where are they leaving? They're voting with their U-Haul, right? Honey, we're packing it up. We're going to Tennessee. They're going anywhere but into California. And you can't avoid the population swings. They are happening. And some of that has to do with businesses are opening up. Businesses are closing down in California. What California has going on for it positively is just massive population base that's already there. It's there. It's in place. That momentum is going to carry California for a long time. So Gavin Newsom, in his infinite wisdom and at his absolute best at trying to destroy the future for business, he's able to carry that because there's already so much business going on. Their GDP is massive. Their consumption of oil, which I've talked about a bunch lately, is massive. Massive. Some of the biggest in the world. California consumes more gasoline, more oil, more heating oil, more jet fuel than all but the United States combined or China. Those are the only 2 countries that that collectively consume more than California as a state. So it's got this momentum moving forward that is just inertia. It's been going, it's, set up, it's going, but slowly, bit by bit by bit by bit, you're seeing companies like Playboy. And I understand, hey, they're not relevant. Why are you talking about them? Because it's once influential businesses that are trying to get going, that are trying to rebrand, and trying to make something of themselves, along with Bed Bath & Beyond, which, hey, bankrupt, closed all their stores. They're starting from scratch. But what's interesting is that, they're saying, hey, absolute hard no-go in California. Gavin Newsom's response to Bed Bath & Beyond was, it was pretty wild. He basically said, hey, I didn't know that Bed Bath & Beyond was still in business. I thought like every other American, they were totally gone. Hey, Bed Bath & Beyond, good luck becoming relevant again. Didn't even address any of those issues, because what are you going to say? How are you going to defend those? You can't. You can stand behind your GDP for so long. You can only do that for so long, and then you got to start looking at what's going on, and you're like, ooh, this isn't good. Got a lot of big companies saying, nope, I don't think so. How about In-N-Out Burger shutting its headquarters down and basically going out of state? Closed down the Oakland In-N-Out Burger because you had bullet holes in the restaurant. I mean, just some insanity, right? Just some insanity happening. If you want to ignore that, you can. And if you're doing that, you're probably in California and you're like, hey, I'm here. I got to deal with it. I just got to figure out a way to handle it. Same thing within Washington State here. We know the direction that it's heading. And if you live here, you're like, all right, we're just going to have to take another one. That's all you can do, because our leadership is so twisted from a ideological standpoint that you're more taxation, more regulation, guaranteed, not only goes in one direction. And that's Bed Bath & Beyond takes off, Playboy takes off, In-N-Out Burger takes off. Who's next? Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification bell, because we'll all be covering all those as well. If you enjoyed this video, love to get a like from you. Thanks in advance. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.